Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the language of air travel. Believe it or not, aviation English is one of the most in-demand forms of English around the world. Why? Because English is the language of the skies. The International Civil Aviation Organization is specialized agency of the United Nations. In 2003, the organization set a deadline on March 2008 for pilots and traffic controllers at international airports to pass English proficiency exams. A high-level knowledge of English continues to be required in international aviation today. Some form of aviation English is commonly used by many people working in the industry, but pilots and air traffic controllers must also learn a special form of English to communicate with each other by radio and more recently by computer. This coded language is a combination of technical terms and plain English. For example, the term Roger means message received, and Wilco means I will comply. The good news is that there are only around 300 such terms. Aviation English differs from Standard English in a few other important ways. For example, it typically avoids question forms and negative forms. There is also almost no use of modal verbs, such as the word can. And since this language is made of short, direct commands and responses, subject pronouns such as you and I are not used. Few pilots know this specialized language better than Clarence Clyde Romero. A native of New York City, he worked as pilot for 38 years before retiring in 2015. He began his career in the United States Air Force, first as pilot, then a flight instructor. Later, he became a commercial airline pilot and captain with Piedmont Airlines, followed by United States Airways and American Airlines. Clyde Romero now lives in Atlanta, Georgia. He joins us by phone to tell us about aviation communication and some of his experiences as an active pilot. Obviously, it's not true that Clyde Romero is on the phone right now. I just, have to pretend that he's calling us. Mr. Romero, thanks so much for speaking with us. Clyde Romero, no problem. Can you start by telling us a little bit about the language of pilots and air traffic controllers? Clyde Romero, okay. There is a phonetic alphabet that you have to be familiar with. So, in other words, you never say A over the radio, you say Alpha. You never say Z over the radio, you say Zulu. So, you have to be familiar with the phonetic alphabet so that if you have to spell something out, that's how you spell it. You are very specific when you say numbers and when you speak because you have to make sure the other person really understands it. You could say niner instead of nine. And then if you had to say 19, you don't say 19 over the radio. You say, Roger that, It's 1-9. Okay, great. So the alphabet is phonetic and numbers are set individually. Give us an example of a message for communication between a pilot and air traffic controller. Clyde Romero. I'll give you an example. You could be on a gate saying, Roger, this is American Airline 551 requesting pushback, Delta 21, LaGuardia. So, he, the air traffic controller, knows that flight number, you are, what gate you are at, you want a pushback, and you are going to LaGuardia Airport. Okay, so there is a lot of information in very few words. Could you give example of where English language challenges may play out on the job? Clyde Romero. The biggest challenge that the people where English is not their primary language is that in the aviation field, people tend to talk fast. And unless you have to ear for it, you will miss a lot. Even people who English is the normal language will have people say again. And that's a normal term that pilots use all the time. So, if you can imagine somebody where English is not their primary language and people are talking fast, you can see how things could get missed. And where this is really important is during emergencies. So, given the speed and technical nature of the language, do you have any suggestions or encouragement for non-native English speakers who are interested in the field? Clyde Romero. Aviation terms and phrases is a language into itself. I would recommend that they listen to air traffic control people. They have numerous places where you can listen in on the radio and how they talk and how they interact. And it's like anything else. It's a foreign language. So, how do you learn a foreign language? You start hearing it and you start mimicking it. And then you learn about it. Great! Now, every job has a humorous moments. Are there any humorous stories that involved miscommunication from your time as an airline pilot? Clyde Romero. Yes, well, I'll give you a story. We were going into LA, Los Angeles, and there is an arrival called the La Jolla arrival. But when you look at it, it's spelled with J, it's spelled Jolla. Okay, so we are going into LA and I'm flying the airplane and the other guy, pilot, is on the radios and he's never been into LA and we are on the La Jolla arrival. But he said, well, we are on the La Jolla arrival. Well, air traffic control said, well, out here in California, we say our J's like H's. You are on the La Jolla arrival. So I picked up the radio and said, oh, really? So it's Hanoi, Horn, and Hawaii out there. So after I said that, naturally, I'm not the only one on the radio. There is Delta American, Eastern, everybody else. And they said, wow, American, you got him, good there, didn't you? So that's a true story. Now that's a good one. So, when you speak to air traffic control, all the other airlines can hear your radio talking? Clyde Romero. Yeah. When you are on a center frequency, there could be as many as 200 or 300 airplanes on that same frequency. So you are hearing everybody talk along with yourself. So what that does to you is build situation awareness around you about what is going on. Just out of a curiosity, how many messages might you hear in 1 minute? Clyde Romero. In 1 minute, probably 50. If it's busy, it could be more than that. And a lot of times you don't have the time to respond. If they say, American 785 turn right, heading 250 black Delta, 521 descend maintain 2000 feet, Eastern 521, you are clear to approach runway 13, LaGuardia Brac. And that's what you hear. That's exactly how fast they will talk. And you will not have time to respond. Any of the big airport, 95% of the time, you will not have a chance to respond. You will not just do it. Mr. Romero, thanks again for speaking with us. Clyde Romero, okay, great. I'm glad I could be of assistance. And that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. See you next time.